Greek mythology is not just about heroes and epic battles. It hides gods so terrifying they make Hades look merciful. From the goddess of eternal night to the queen of witchcraft herself, these are the 5 scariest Greek gods you've never heard of. And the last one? It might just keep you awake tonight. Before the Olympians, before Zeus ruled the heavens and Poseidon ruled the seas, there was Nyx. She wasn't just a goddess of the night, she was the night itself. Imagine the moment when the sun sinks below the horizon, when shadows stretch across the earth, when everything is swallowed by darkness. The ancient Greeks didn't see that as just a natural cycle. They saw it as the presence of Nyx, wrapping the world in her eternal veil. Nyx was one of the primordial deities, born at the very dawn of creation, when the universe was nothing but chaos. Unlike Zeus, Athena, or Apollo, deities tied to human affairs and civilization, Nyx was something far greater and far more terrifying. She embodied the unknown, the mystery of what lies in the dark, and the fears that come alive when light disappears. And here's what made her truly terrifying. Even Zeus feared her. Yes, the king of the gods, the ruler of Olympus, the wielder of thunderbolts, did not dare to cross Nyx. Ancient texts tell us that her power was so immense and so untouchable that Zeus himself avoided conflict with her. Think about that. The god who chained titans and defeated monsters knew there were limits, and those limits were drawn by the goddess of night. But Nyx was not alone. She was the mother of nightmares. From her came a host of children that defined the darker side of existence. She gave birth to Thanatos, the god of death, who claimed souls with a single touch. She bore Hypnos, the god of sleep, who could bend the will of gods and mortals alike with the weight of his drowsy wings. She was mother to Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance, and to the Fates, those relentless weavers of destiny who controlled the thread of every mortal life. So in a way, every shadow, every dream, every punishment, every death, all could be traced back to Nyx. She was the root of fear itself. In art, Nyx is often shown as a figure with great black wings, or as a mysterious woman surrounded by stars, riding a chariot across the sky. But the Greeks believed her true form could never be seen by human eyes. Her presence was in the silence of the night, in the darkness just beyond the torchlight, in the feeling that someone or something is watching when you walk alone at midnight. Think about it. The Greeks lived without electricity, without artificial light. When the sun went down, night was absolute. The forest, the sea, the mountains, everything disappeared into blackness. That fear of the unknown, of what hides in the shadows, was embodied by Nyx. She wasn't just a myth. She was the explanation for the most primal fear humans have ever known, the fear of the dark. And here's the chilling part. The Greeks respected Zeus. They honored Apollo. They worshipped Athena. But Nyx, she wasn't worshipped in the same way. She didn't need temples in every city or festivals with music and wine. She didn't need followers to make sacrifices. Why? Because she was above it all. She was untouchable. Her existence itself was enough to demand respect and silence. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of the night, when the world feels eerily still, when you sense something lurking in the shadows, remember Nyx. To the ancient Greeks, that wasn't just your imagination. That was the goddess of the night herself, watching, waiting, and reminding you of the power that even Zeus dared not to challenge.
If Nyx was the night itself, then her son Thanatos was its coldest shadow, the shadow that no one could escape. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a ruler of the underworld like Hades. Thanatos was something far more personal, far more terrifying. He was death. Not war, not disease, not punishment. Just death. Silent, inevitable, and absolute. In Greek mythology, Thanatos was the personification of death itself. Unlike his brother Hypnos, who brought dreams and sleep, Thanatos came to take the final breath of mortals. He didn't ask for permission, and he didn't make deals. Once his cold hands touched you, your soul was claimed, and there was no turning back. The Greeks described him as a winged figure, cloaked in black, with a sword in his hand. His touch was said to be icy, draining all warmth from the body. When Thanatos came, it wasn't with thunder or fire, it wasn't with cries or roars. It was with silence. Imagine being in a room, and suddenly the air feels heavy, your skin turns cold, and you just know. That was the presence of Thanatos. What made him truly frightening wasn't only his power, but his indifference. While Ares reveled in war and Poseidon unleashed his wrath with storms, Thanatos didn't feel anger, joy, or vengeance. He had no passion, no emotion. He simply did what he was destined to do: take every life, god or mortal, when the time came. Some stories say he was merciless, that he loved the stillness of death. Others hint that he was gentle, like a shadow passing through, carrying the souls softly into the afterlife. But one truth always remained: no one could escape him. Not kings, not heroes, not even the gods themselves. There's a chilling story of Sisyphus, the trickster king who tried to cheat death. When Thanatos came for him, Sisyphus trapped him in chains, locking him away. For a time, no one died in the world. Soldiers fought endless battles, and the old and sick continued to suffer without release. But Zeus, furious at this disruption, ordered Thanatos to be freed. And once he was released, balance returned. The lesson was clear. Even if you managed to outsmart him for a moment, Thanatos would always come back. He always wins in the end. Unlike Hades, who ruled and judged souls, Thanatos didn't bargain, didn't decide your fate. He was the one who delivered you to the underworld, the escort into darkness. In Roman mythology, he became Mors, literally meaning death. And while cultures all over the world have figures of death, from the Grim Reaper to Azrael, Thanatos remains one of the oldest and most haunting personifications of it. Now imagine the life of an ancient Greek. Every time someone died in their village, in war, in childbirth, from sickness, they believed it was Thanatos who had entered the home, touched their loved one, and carried their spirit away. Death wasn't an accident. It was a god's hand upon you. So while Zeus ruled Olympus and Poseidon shook the seas, Thanatos held the greatest power of all, the certainty that one day he would come for everyone. Kings and peasants, warriors and poets, even the gods themselves feared the moment they would hear the beating of his wings. And that's what makes Thanatos so terrifying. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't evil. He was worse than that. He was inevitable.
If you think chaos is born from war or destruction, think again. In Greek mythology, chaos often began with a whisper, a seed of doubt, or a single cruel idea planted at just the right moment. And that was the work of Eris, the goddess of discord. She didn't command armies. She didn't hurl thunderbolts. Her weapon was far more dangerous. She made people destroy themselves. Eris was the daughter of Nyx, born from the same dark womb that gave the world death, sleep, and nightmares. But while Thanatos represented the inevitability of death, Eris represented something far more unpredictable: conflict. Wherever she went, harmony shattered. Brothers turned against brothers, friends became enemies, and kingdoms crumbled from within. She was not worshipped like Athena, goddess of wisdom, nor adored like Aphrodite, goddess of beauty. Eris didn't bring prosperity or joy. She brought tension, rivalry, and suspicion. The Greeks feared her because she was everywhere, in jealousy, in arguments, in wars started over nothing. Her most famous act of chaos? The spark that lit the legendary Trojan War. The story goes that all the gods were invited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, all except Eris. Furious at being excluded, she decided to crash the party in her own way. She tossed a golden apple into the crowd with a single inscription carved on its surface: "To the fairest." That simple act, one apple, one word, was enough to poison Olympus. 3 goddesses immediately claimed it: Hera, queen of the gods; Athena, goddess of wisdom; and Aphrodite, goddess of love. Their dispute became so intense that Zeus refused to judge between them, passing the decision to a mortal prince named Paris of Troy. And we know the rest of the story. Paris chose Aphrodite, who promised him the love of the most beautiful mortal woman in the world, Helen of Sparta. But Helen was already married. Paris abducted her, igniting a war that dragged on for 10 years and claimed countless lives. A single apple of discord, thrown by Eris, changed the fate of nations. That was her power. She didn't need to kill because she could make others kill for her. She didn't destroy cities because she could make cities destroy themselves. She thrived on envy, greed, and pride, the ugliest parts of human nature. But here's a chilling thought. Eris wasn't just a goddess of mythology. She was a symbol of a truth the Greeks knew all too well: that humans don't need monsters or gods to destroy themselves. All it takes is a spark. A small seed of discord, a tiny rivalry, and soon everything falls apart. In some myths, Eris walked hand in hand with her children, a terrifying brood that included strife, lies, pain, and even murder. Wherever she went, these forces followed, spreading conflict like wildfire. She was the embodiment of every feud, every betrayal, every war born not of necessity, but of pride. And that's what makes Eris one of the scariest figures in Greek mythology, because she represents something timeless, something that still lives today. While Nyx is the night, and Thanatos is death, Eris is every argument, every rivalry, every unnecessary war, and unlike other gods, she doesn't live only in myth. She lives in human hearts. So the next time you hear of a conflict that started over nothing, or watch people tear each other apart over pride, jealousy, or greed, you'll know whose shadow is still moving in the background. The shadow of Eris, the goddess of discord.
Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine slipping into a dream so vivid, so real, that you can no longer tell if you are asleep or awake. Imagine hearing voices, seeing faces, feeling emotions that don't exist in the real world, yet they feel truer than life itself. That's the realm of Morpheus, the god of dreams and nightmares. Morpheus was the son of Hypnos, the god of sleep,
and the grandson of Nyx, the goddess of night. But unlike his father, who simply closed the eyes of mortals and lulled them into slumber, Morpheus had a far more dangerous gift. He could shape dreams. He could appear in any form, enter the mind of any mortal, and twist their reality while they slept. His name itself comes from the Greek word morphe, meaning form or shape. Morpheus was the master of illusions, the weaver of visions. To him, dreams were clay, and humans were his canvas. He could sculpt joy, terror, or despair with the smallest touch. But here's what made him truly terrifying. Dreams were not just entertainment for the Greeks. Dreams were messages. They were omens from the gods, warnings of the future, or glimpses into the unknown. And Morpheus was the one who delivered them. If you dreamt of a loved one dying, or of a strange symbol you couldn't understand, it was believed that Morpheus had placed that vision inside your mind. He was the messenger of truths and of lies. Now imagine this. In the dead of night, you fall asleep and see a figure who feels real, their face, their voice, their touch. You wake up convinced it happened, your heart pounding, your emotions raw. But it was all Morpheus. He could blur the line between dream and waking life so perfectly that mortals were left questioning their own sanity. In many depictions, Morpheus is shown with wings, silently gliding over the sleeping, whispering visions into their ears. He was not always cruel. Sometimes he brought comfort, sweet dreams, and hopeful illusions. But other times, he brought nightmares so vivid that people woke screaming, drenched in sweat, convinced that death was waiting for them just outside their door. Some myths say that Morpheus was the reason kings and warriors made terrible decisions, believing the false promises they saw in their dreams. Others believed he could be bribed with offerings, asked to bring good visions instead of nightmares. But the truth remained, you could never control him. When you closed your eyes, you entered his world, and in his world, he had all the power. Think about how terrifying that is. During the day, you could fight enemies, protect yourself, defend your city. But at night, you were defenseless, vulnerable. And that's when Morpheus came to remind mortals that not even sleep was safe. And maybe that's why even today we still fear bad dreams. Maybe that's why nightmares feel so heavy, so real, so impossible to shake off in the morning. Because somewhere in the back of our minds, we still carry the ancient fear of Morpheus, the god who ruled the world inside our own heads. So tonight, when you close your eyes, ask yourself, is the dream you're about to see your own, or is it Morpheus slipping into your mind, shaping your reality while you sleep?
If Nyx was the night, Thanatos was death, Eris was discord, and Morpheus was dreams, then Hecate was the torch that lit the path between the living and the dead. She was the goddess of witchcraft, magic, and the restless spirits that wandered in the dark. And unlike many other gods, Hecate didn't belong only to Olympus or to the underworld. She walked in both worlds, and she was feared in both. Hecate was a liminal figure, a goddess of crossroads. The Greeks believed that where three paths met, Hecate was there, watching. To them, crossroads were dangerous places where choices had to be made, and where spirits lingered. And it was at these places that offerings were left for her, food, sacrifices, or even blood to keep her favor and ward off her wrath. She was often depicted carrying torches, lighting the way through darkness. But her torches weren't only for the living, they were for guiding ghosts, restless souls that wandered at night. To see Hecate's torch meant that spirits were near, a haunting reminder that the boundary between the worlds was thinner than mortals like to believe. Unlike gods who represented noble ideals like wisdom, justice, or love, Hecate ruled over the things mortals feared: magic, curses, necromancy, and the power of the unseen. She was often invoked in rituals of witchcraft, her name whispered in spells, her presence demanded at the edge of graveyards and forests. Some myths describe her as having 3 faces or 3 bodies, symbolizing her dominion over the past, present, and future. This also reflected her rule over the 3 realms: the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. No matter where you were, Hecate could be watching. But perhaps the most terrifying part about Hecate was her connection to the dead. The Greeks believed that at night she would roam the earth with a pack of howling dogs and a procession of restless ghosts. If you heard dogs barking wildly in the dark for no reason, it was said to be a sign that Hecate was passing by, and with her, the souls of the dead. To honor her, people left offerings called Hecate's suppers at crossroads during the dark of the moon. These offerings were meant not only to please her, but also to appease the spirits she commanded. Because angering Hecate didn't just mean invoking her wrath, it meant unleashing the dead upon your life. Hecate was not evil in the traditional sense. She could be a protector, a guide, even a source of wisdom for those who respected her. But to those who ignored her, mocked her, or disrespected the dead, she was merciless. So imagine living in ancient Greece. You walk home late at night, the moon hidden behind clouds, the wind howling through the trees. Suddenly, the dogs in the village begin barking uncontrollably. The air grows heavy, the silence deafening between the echoes. And then, in the distance, you see a faint torch burning at the crossroads. You would know instantly Hecate was there, and with her, the spirits of the dead. That was the fear, the awe, and the mystery she carried. She wasn't just a goddess of witchcraft. She was the eternal reminder that death, magic, and the unknown were never far away. And maybe they still aren't.
From Nyx, the eternal night, to Thanatos, the silent hand of death. From Ares, who started wars with a single word, to Morpheus, who could control your very dreams. And finally, Hecate, the torchbearer who walked with the dead. These gods remind us that Greek mythology wasn't just about heroes, wisdom, and glory. It was also about fear, chaos, and the shadows that live in the human soul. But here's the question. Which of these gods do you think was the scariest? Was it Nyx, the mother of nightmares, or Hecate, the queen of witchcraft? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this journey into the darker side of mythology, make sure to subscribe, because next time we're exploring the terrifying creatures of Norse mythology, beings so powerful that even the gods couldn't defeat them. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, myths may be ancient, but the fears they carry are eternal.